So, as I expected, there are a few individuals that disagree with the narrative that I had given you all a few minutes ago, right? So what they're disagreeing about is that the PJs were Crips before Grape Street was Crip. To anybody that really know the history of Cripping and Watts, one thing that you will know is the first Crip set that was in Watts was the Hickory Street Crips on the back streets of the Jordan Downs, the outskirts of the Jordan Downs. Before you had Jordan Down Crip, you had the Hickory Street Crips, right? So the first Crip set in Watts was the Hickory Street Crips. The second Crip set in Watts was the 10-line Gangster Crips, and this is when 10-line went from this side of Wilmington to the other side of Wilmington, all the way back behind the Nickerson Gardens. So the oldest Crip set in Watts that's still active to this day is the 10-line Gangster Crips. So it can be argued that the PJs had embraced Cripping around the same time as the Hickory Street Crips, which was started by Tyrone Tate. That can be argued, right? When the Hickory Street Crips went into existence, you gotta understand, Tookie was already in Imperial Courts House.
PJ Watts, they started messing with Anthony Baylock, they big homeboy. You know, we always had a relationship. We was tight. He had a relationship with Gary McGowan. Gary McGowan's sister, Tookie got a baby by her. So all that emerged. Now,
for those of you who don't know, Lil Tookie is from PJ Watts Crip. Tookie frequent the Imperial Courts housing project.
AB really came, in a sense, not really to my aid. He came to Tookie Williams' aid. Everybody knew Tookie at the time, and he had started hanging over in the project with the PJs and all.
Just as much as he frequent the Grandees and the other Crip sets in Compton and whatnot. So Tyrone Tate, you know, pretty much just started his Crip set of Hickory Street Crips. But you gotta understand, Anthony Baylock embraced Cripping directly through Tookie. So Tookie had a major influence. I should have put on my mic, but fuck it, y'all can hear me. Tookie had a major influence in the PJs becoming PJ Watts Crip. Sometimes in the early 70s, when the Bounty Hunters had converted over to Bounty Hunters and stopped pushing the Green Jackets, which was a clique or a club organization that was in the Nickerson Guards and the Jordan Downs. See, now that's some history shit right there, right? If you know the history of Watts, then you know that Watts was a thriving community, and it was an enclave for African Americans migrating from the South. It was a point of time in the 50s and the 60s, all blacks was on one accord, and you can go from this housing projects to the high housing project, everybody.
And we were able to travel within the community, like Imperial Courts. We would go over to Nickerson Gardens and play the Nickerson Gardens guys at their gyms or at their ball field. Jordan Down, the same way. You could travel among them. And so we didn't have any of that problem.
When things started getting sectioned off and the separatism came in, the separation came in when we started Cripping and blooding. But the Bounty Hunters, or the Nickerson Gordon housing projects and the Jordan Down housing project, has always had.
You know, back in the day, the guys from the Nickersons had a big influence on what was going on in the Jordan Downs.
right.
How was that? Because the Nickersons is bigger, there's more people. Or...
No, it's because they had a relationship. You know, some of the guys who were here who were influential over here, you know, they would go over there. And
the PJs, we was always independent. We was cool with everybody. We can function when our paths intersected and all that, but we wasn't really going out our way to hang with the Jordan Down housing projects. This is before PJ Bunny Hunter Graping, the separatism, the separation through banging and all this, right? So every project, every housing project was cool. The individuals sometimes go to the Jordan Downs from the Nickerson Gardens and vice versa, etc., from all the other projects. Yes, sometimes a person get pressed depending on your pedigree and the type of person that you were in your housing projects and your reputation for fighting. You may get a pass, and you may have to throw them things with a few people, because back in those days it was all about fighting. So if you had a reputable guy out of the Imperial Courts housing project that was a known fighter, people quite naturally wanted to see how would he compare, how would he measure up to an individual from the Jordan Down housing projects that had a equal reputation of being a fighter. So was there scrimmages and whatnot? Yeah, motherfuckers fought. But it didn't turn to gunplay. It didn't become violent to a motherfucker stabbing and shooting each other and all this shit into the 70s, right? But I digress. Around the time that the Hickory Street Crips was doing their thing, the PJ Wash Crips was already doing their thing. You understand what I'm saying? So people are saying, oh no, Cripping was in the Jordan Downs first. No, my guy, it wasn't. Before the Jordan Down Crips became the Jordan Down Crips, they had other little sets that, or they had other little cliques that was over there. I'm not gonna get too deep into their politics and the names of they thing and all that. You know, somebody can give you elucidation of that. That's from the Jordan Down housing projects. You feel what I'm saying? But they had other little cliques and all that was over there. If I'm not mistaken, it was a faction of the bishops that was in the Jordan Down housing projects at some point too. So the PJs, yeah, it was Cripping in Imperial Courts before it was Cripping in the Jordan Downs. And if you know your history and you talk to some real influential OGs and all this type of shit, you'll know that. And then a person can't say that the Grape Streets was Crips before the PJs, because the PJs was in existence before the Grape Streets. The Grape Streets didn't come out until in between 1974 and 1979. The PJs had already been Cripping. The PJs was already in active wars with blood sets and certain Pyru sets and all this type of shit. So the reason why I'm bringing this up, because a few people got in my inbox was like, nah, brother, you got that wrong. And with you, nah, I ain't got a motherfucking thing wrong. The PJ Wash Crips was Cripping way before Grape Street even came to existence. The PJs was Cripping at least 18 months to a year before the Jordan Downs embraced Cripping and became the Jordan Down Crips. But if we go off the narrative and the story that Alfred Trotter had put out there, the pygmy Alfred Trotter said that he had personally kept the Crips out of the Jordan Down housing projects for 10 years.
Were you able to keep the Crips? Because you really didn't like what their function was, but there was a period of time where you didn't want them in the projects. Right?
No, I didn't want them in the projects from Jump Street. You know, we kept them out like 10 years. You know, we didn't let Jordan Downs turn Crip until my nephew Tyrone. He was already a Crip. So he said, Unc, man, I want to turn your projects into Crips, man. I said, hell no. Then I said, oh man, I can't fight him. That's family. So he started the Jordan Down Crips before they came to Grape. They had a couple of names before they switched. I think they switched to Grape in 82 or either 84.
So if the Crips came out in 1969, and if what Alfred Trotter is saying is true, that he was able to keep the Crips out of the Jordan Down housing projects for 10 years, then that put it at 1979 that Cripping had went into the Jordan Down housing projects, and the PJs was already Cripping. Once the bounty hunters, once the niggas and Gordons went from being green jackets to bounty hunters, when they switched over, to being bounty hunting, that became the identity that's associated in governed the niggas and Gordon housing projects. They came to the Imperial Courts. If you from Imperial Courts, the place where they met at, they had their meeting at was behind a big dumpster in the hood, the big bungalow where the trash thing is at. They met the PJs over there, and they was telling the PJs, Anthony Baylock and a couple other influential dudes of that time, they was telling them, like, we want y'all to be down with this bounty hunter thing. And I was like, nah, we ain't down with no bounty hunter thing, homie. We Cripping over here. And that's how the war started. That's how the division, that's how the separation, and that's how the beef between the PJ Wash Crips and the bounty hunters, before they was converted over to bounty hunter Wash Bloods, that's how the beef started. So all you individuals that's in my inbox telling me that I got my facts wrong, nah, homie, I got my facts straight. The oldest hood in Watts, the oldest Crip set in Watts is the 10 Lines. And a lot of people believe that 10 Line Gangsta Crip was an offset of Grape Streets. That's not true. The 10 Lines was Cripping before the Grape Streets. Grape Streets was a set that came like, way later, and it's not taking none from their gangsters or nothing like that. Them niggas, they handle their counter, they with the business, they do their stuff, you feel what I'm saying? So it's not taking anything off of they Cripping or trying to belittle they Cripping, but this is Watts history, you feel what I'm saying? So if I'm a Watts historian and a representative from the Imperial Courts that's telling you our history from our perspective and whatnot, I gotta make sure that I have my facts straight, you feel me? So if it's anybody that want to counter or dispute or refute what I'm saying, come with your facts, let's have a conversation, you feel what I'm saying? What I've been doing, so I'm trying to segue into doing these interviews with some of these older cats and all that, right? So one of the individuals that I reached out to was Prentice, for obvious reasons. Prentice haven't responded back yet, but I reached out to brother Zabo Franklin. I reached out to Zabo, introduced myself, you know, gave him the utmost respect and whatnot, you know what I mean? Let him know what my mission was, what my vision is, and I told him that I love to interview him and all that. After I told him that, gave him my introduction and all that, cuz ain't responded. But I would like to interview Zabo, because Zabo, I feel like, is a wealth of knowledge from both sides, you know, from him being, and this is not taking shots at OG Zabo. So OG Zabo, if one of your homies tag you in this and try to make it seem like I'm trying to belittle your Cripping or I'm taking shots at you, no, Ken folks, this ain't what it is. But it's being documented, it's being recorded. It's a well-known fact that before Zabo was from PJ Wash Crip, no, matter of fact, that's controversial, because I'm gonna pray on it, because this is good to know how you learn all this. Oh, how I learned all this, because even when I was a kid, I sat up under the big homies and I absorbed a lot of information. You know what I mean? As a kid, I didn't really fraternize and chill and play with individuals that was in like my age group. I was always trying to follow under Lil Tyson, because I thought Tyson was younger than what he was. You feel what I'm saying? But he was influential. A lot of big homies, you know, held Tyson in a high regard. You know what I mean? Lil Reggie too. I used to try to chill with Lil Reggie, but Cuz was just too advanced. Lil Reggie was too advanced, right? But I started chilling with like niggas like Lil Dulo, which is Lily. I started chilling with Lily brother JT. I was under June for a minute. I was just always chilling with homies that was older. And then when I just really got off the porch and started gang banging, I still chilled with the big homies that was older, and they gave me the history, telling me about my family history. You know what I mean? I'm gonna get into that too, talking about how the war started, the actual war started. I'm not talking about the friction, because just because it's friction and tension there, that doesn't mean that it's a war. You feel what I'm saying? Before the PJs and the Grape Streets just went into all-out war, it was friction. In the other video, I was telling you where the friction come from. One of our homegirls from Imperial Courts fucking with a reputable guy from Grape Street, and him saying, we gonna turn the PJs to Grape Streets. Her going back and telling Big Ken what the dude said, and Big Ken like, man, fuck them niggas, cuz we ain't turning no motherfucking Grape Street and all this type of shit. But that's where the friction started, right? Before the all-out war just broke out in 1987, because that was contrary to popular beliefs, right? A lot of people said that the beef between the PJs and the Grape Street started over Tony Bogart. That is
was
not
inside
true.
the Imperial Courts. The infamous Tony Bogart, because Tony Bogart created the war between Grape Streets and Imperial Courts. Tony Bogart was responsible from his influence for the murdering of one of my guys. But that's not him being innocent. My guy was responsible for something that happened to Tony Bogart's wife. And since there was no mediators and we already had semi-conflict.
When that happened to Tony Bogart's wife, and that gentleman on the other side, you know, rest in peace to him from, you know, out the Grape Streets, from out the Jordan Downs, rest in peace to him. And I'm not saying this to glorify the act that took that individual's life, so I'm not gonna go into it. I'm just giving historical facts and examples and explaining to people how the beef was heightened. In 1987, I got a newspaper clip that back up what I'm saying too. 1987, my uncle was killed. My uncle Mookie was killed. That's when the beef started cracking. I'll go more in depth to this in another video, right? But 1987, the beef cracked between the PJs and the Grape Streets. Something that happened to Tony Bogart's wife. When that happened to Tony Bogart's wife, Tony Bogart upped the ante. You know what I mean? Tony Bogart had pretty much assumed responsibility and became he spearheaded the beef between the PJs and the Grape Streets. So he turned it up on the Grape Streets. But that beef did not start over Tony Bogart, contrary to popular beliefs and whatnot. You feel what I'm saying? But watch, every so many years, man, that shit changed. Cause at first Watts was all one. It was one Watts, right? And then the Nickerson Gardens, this is before the Bounty Hunters. This is pre-Bounty Hunter, pre-Grape Street, pre-Cripping and Blood, right? The Nickerson Gardens and the Jordan Downs had a tight relationship, right? So as time progressed, when we introduced Cripping and Blood and South Central gang politics to Watts, it separated us. The PJs and the Grape Streets was allies. To anybody that know about gang history and all that, the PJs and Grape Streets was like this, man. It was like big brother, little cousin, or big cousin, little cousin. You feel what I'm saying? The PJs and the Grape Streets have put in work, and I'm not going to go in depth to that and speak about that, but the PJs and Grape Street had unified and put in work on their rivals before. That's how close we was, you know what I mean? The Grape Streets the Grape Streets used to be in our hood, and some of our homies was in the Jordan Downs. It was just tight like that. But the Grape Streets, when they got their numbers up, you know, they develop a superiority complex. Like, we deeper than them. We feel like we get more money than them. We feel like we more influential than them. So why we wouldn't turn them to be Grape Street? Why we wouldn't turn them out? But the big homies weren't going for that. You know, we had solid big homies, but just to be all the way honest with you, to call a ball, a strike a strike, you got a lot of dudes that was from PJ Wash Crip, because PJ Wash Crip was an actual set before Jordan Down Crip and Grape Street Wash Crip. You had a lot of dudes that was from PJ Wash Crip, and once the Grape Street got deeper and they got a certain level of influence, they converted over. You got some big homies that when a war started in 1987, you know, they was kind of like under that Grape Street banner, up under that Grape Street umbrella. But when a war started, they, you know, converted back to being from PJs. But a whole lot of PJs turned Grape Streets when Grape Streets, you know, came into existence. And this is the truth. If you watch my other video, you know, the big homies say the names of the individuals that was from PJs that switched over from being Grape. But the most notable ones that was PJs that switched over to being Grape is Bruce Bullard. Bruce Bullard is BL and Tweeter's Pops. Who else? Who else? Oh, Zabo. You know, Zabo was PJ, Paru, PJ, Grape Street. Prentice, which is Al Prentice. Al Prentice was from PJs, and he switched over to being from Grape Street. And then there's some that switched over to being from Grape Street that went back to being from PJ. I don't know if they want they business out there, so at this time I elect not to, you know, give those names. I'll ask them, is it okay for me to say the names? Yeah, so how could Grape Street have been in existence before PJs, and how could the Jordan Downs have been cripping before the PJs and all that? And we got all these facts, you feel what I'm saying? Even Bonnie Hunter Frog said that Cripping ain't go to the Jordan Downs under Pee Wee, which I believe it was actually Tyrone Tate. So let's just say Pee Wee and Tyrone Tate took Cripping into the Jordan Downs, and they stamped that as early as 73, 75.
Okay, so now the Jordan Crips become the Grape Street Crips a couple years later. I think, what, 75 maybe?
No, they came out in 77.
Okay.
And that was Crow. That's Wayne Dave's baby brother, Kenny Crow. He started that.
It may go back as far as late 72. The PJs was already cripping by then. And then we had a strong relationship with Big Tookie. Big Tookie used to frequent the hood. Big Tookie's son, Lil Tookie, is from PJs. You feel what I'm saying? So there's just some historical shit, man. You know what I mean? Just kind of like clarifying some of the things that people was in my inbox saying. And that being said, when OG Tank Magruder from out the Jordan Down, shout out to you, cuz, from Grape Street, was you know, corrected me or attempted to correct me, not in a bad way, like he was pressing and none of that. Maybe his historical facts is kind of, you know, off a little bit too, you feel me? But he had said that the Grape Streets was cripping before the PJs, and that's not true. Or he had said that the Jordan Downs was cripping before the Imperial Courts, and that's not true, you feel what I'm saying? So I'm about to end this live, man. I'm about to get back to work and all this type of shit, man. There's some beautiful birds up here, man. This is where I work at. I can't show you the clients and all that, but I work in the middle of the wilderness. Hey, but look, check this out. I'm not too big to be corrected. If it's any thing that you feel like I'm giving false information on, please, you know, comment in the videos or hit my inbox or call me on the phone. Let's have a conversation about it. If it's any content or any subjects that you would like me to speak of in regards to Imperial Courts, you know what I mean, hit me up. Let me know, you know what I mean? Shit, y'all stay up and be blessed, man, and I appreciate y'all for tapping in. What's up, big homie? Just know we proud of you. Hey, I appreciate that, big home girl. I truly appreciate that. Linky, what's the deal, cuz? Man, I ain't hollered at my partner in a while, man. But I send peace and blessings and a multitude of blessings, you know, the remainder of the year and going into 2024, man. 2024, just to kind of get on some spiritual shit, 2024 is going to be a year of manifestation. So anything that you put your mind to and your actions line up with what's in your mind, the universe and God is going to allow it to manifest, and then it's going to be manifested in a way to where you're going to get it in abundance. If you go into 2024 with the bullshit, ooh, you're going to get so much bullshit back. But if you go into 2024 with positive intentions, a pure heart and a sound mind, the Most High is going to bless you tremendously. But y'all stay up, man. Y'all be blessed. And I'm gonna end this motherfucker. But to my brothers from out of the Jordan Downs, you know, Grape Streets, if you feel like anything that I said is fallacious, misleading, or, you know, it's an improper depiction of my hood, your hood, or whatever, please feel free to chime in. And if anybody has an active relationship with Big Zabo, man, tell Zabo, let me get that interview, man. Because I feel like that's a very, very interesting story for an individual to be from PJs, then turn Pyru, then turn back to PJ, and then ultimately, you know, turn Grape Street and, you know, become a very, I can't say influential because I'm not from Grape Street and I don't know what Cuz influence is over there. But one thing that I have always been told about Zabo is every hood that he was from, he was always a rider. He was never a bust-ass nigga that you can just mark out and fuck over and all that. They say Zabo has always been 10 toes down from whatever set he was from. You feel what I'm saying? So I feel like that'd be a unique story versus just me interviewing all my G homies and everything is from, you know, the Imperial Course and the PJ's perspective. I want to get it from both perspectives. You know what I'm saying? If it's any OGs from Grape Street, man, that wouldn't mind me interviewing you, just talking about, you know what I mean, the history of Watts, the history of Cripping and Watts, and whatever you feel like you want to address or talk about, man, Mac in with me. And shit, I appreciate y'all. Y'all still been be blessed.
These niggas exit out, talking shit that they ain't about, fix them out. Got a problem, we can shoot it out, close your mouth. Gunplay ain't a thing for me, I've been feeling death. So I tell my kids to pray for me, this real life. It ain't a movie, it ain't make-believe, half these niggas ain't the niggas that they claim to be. They said I shot they niggas, so you know I keep the thing to me. My life is valuable, so you know it ain't a thing to me. Got a mind like Malcolm X, but I crip like Tookie. Got this Tupac passion, but I crip like Tookie. Got this Marcus Garvey vision, but I crip like Tookie. How you become successful when you crip like Tookie? A million man, forming plans to recreate this shit. I hate this shit. They treating us like we make this shit. America haters, they kill a panther, so I was made to grip. They orchestrate the cycle and murder anyone that can break this shit. It's real life.